family, like
Yes.
aunts, uncles, grandmothers, whatever.
Yeah.
When you were sick, they sent you to go pick something.
I was born there, but I grew up in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even when I was in Dominica, I was with very Catholic-minded people.
Okay.
So,
The conversion had already happened.
yeah, it had
Yeah.
already happened. I've gone full circle, I'm just now coming
Coming
back.
back around, right? Well, from building with people that are from the island, everything that they did came from that land right there,
Right.
right? So, if they're slaves from Africa, why are they doing stuff from here? Why aren't they doing stuff from over there if that's where they say that we come from?
You brought
What?
the knowledge.
Why do we know, but they never brought knowledge of guava fruit with them over here. There ain't no guavas on the continent. Right? Certain things, certain bush that we have over here that we use for medicinal purposes
Was never there.
wasn't from over there. They didn't bring, Noah's Ark, 2 plants and everybody, we plant plants over here, so now we have stuff over here. There was already certain things going on over here. And that's the whole thing that they're trying to disconnect us from. Because once they disconnect us from the fact that, we were already over here. That's why we showed the thing about the mummies. You can't deny that. You can deny other stuff that we talk about, but you can't deny the fact that they found mummies here. You can't deny the fact that there's pyramids over here.
Yeah, you want to check something on the internet. The Temple of the Sun and the Moon in Mexico is older than the temples in Egypt, which they try and say is where
Civilization came out.
So you realize on this side, in Mexico, we have temples that are 5,000 years older than even those. Therefore, meaning that obviously there were people who could build temples over here
Right.
well before then. But
There-
you
there-
never hear about that.
There were pyramids in Mexico so big that they made cities out of them when they destroyed them. Because again, they have to hide this history. They can't have this history in the open for people to stumble into when they go in Mexico or they're going over, Mexico on the plane or whatever. And how come there's pyramids everywhere in Mexico?
Who destroyed them?
The European,
European colonists.
conquistadors in the south.
Conquistadors,
They're called the colonizers.
Vikings,
up here.
whoever, plus with the ones on our side who
Sold out.
sided with them, right? That's the same reason how the Caribs ended up in a reserve, because their own sold them out. Because everybody there's Caribs. You know what I mean? Different tribes, so we look different. You know what I mean? But ultimately, we're all the same people.
And that she was talking about that too, within the dialects. She's saying in Japan, for example, they have 4 different dialects, but everyone's been trained there that they have one dialect
Yeah.
that they can talk with. But in the Philippines, she was telling me that someone in the north can't talk to someone in the south.
Right.
The language.
The language
so,
is-
so a big part of that, as you see, is part of that process. But
Right.
or maybe not even part of that process. That's just how it was.
How it was.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You wouldn't. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to add about the phenotype. I just looking at the 2 sides now, and I realized that on the American side, compared to the African side, their hair is a lot more curly than ours, a lot more knotted than ours. Then if you see on our side, we have a lot of afros and a lot of,
Yeah.
hair everywhere,
Right.
where from just me noticing that our hair type is different. Not saying that Africans don't have the African continent countries don't have afros, but you see a lot here more with a lot of dreads and a lot of afros and a lot of eccentric hair where it's easily done however you want it, to where Africans, they're mostly tightly curled, they're mostly low. Just from my observation, it's nothing I really dig deep into, just by noticing it. So it's you could just tell the difference, even with the Asiatics in Australia
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You see right? They're copper color, but they have
But they have
distinctive
different, features.
features,
Yeah.
right? That the
That
blonde
more
hair, blue
relate
eyes,
to
yeah,
there, yeah.
more like exactly. So we were everywhere, but we were distinctively in different areas of the planet. We had our distinctive phenotypes. So if we all came from one place, then we basically would have all had the same phenotype all around.
We would be able to look at a person from the continent of Africa and be like, yeah, you actually do look like
Yeah,
me. You
exactly.
resemble. But when we look at them, we don't see that. We don't feel that way neither. We feel like, yeah, they resemble us in the sense of the skin tones, but like if you look closely, they're a little bit darker than us. And there are features that separate us.
Yeah, like it's not.
You just
You,
try to
you probably
generalize.
can't tell every different one, but there's like there's the ones you could automatically
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
You see an African, you just automatically know. I don't know
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you know.
yeah. You just know that they're not on this side.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Shooting.
Oh, so you guys are saying that by just looking at the people in Africa and looking at people, you can see that there's a difference. So then therefore, the history that they're saying we came from over there
Right,
is not,
it's not
false.
right,
adding,
exactly.
adding up to
Yeah.
that.
Because even those people over there,
Yeah,
when they look at anybody over here, they say, you're not from Africa. or whatever.
Also,
They tell people, like, you're not from Africa.
yeah,
You look like an American.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And these things need to be
Yeah, yeah.
bring
But,
about.
but again, like the only reason, for example, the only reason we found that out is because we had the fezzes on and we were talking to some Nigerians who know what the fez is, so they were open to us.
Who know what is?
The fezzes, what the fez is.
Oh,
FEZ, right? So these Nigerians looked at us as, we must know what we're talking about because we got these on. So sure, we'll have a conversation with y'all about, you know what I mean? Was there a slave trade and all that type of stuff? And they were straight saying, we did it. Africans sold you guys out over here. This Nigerians talking. Because, you know, that's where all the slave forts are. Ghana, Nigeria, the whole the Gold Coast and all that stuff. That's where all the slave forts are. That's not Europe. That's continent. And those jurisdictions didn't have colonization like that, where Europeans went there and built castles. Those are African people's stuff. You know what I mean? African kings built those.
So when
No,
you say sold
Europeans
out,
built
what do you
those.
mean when you say sold out? Sold them out, Africans are the ones that sold them out. What do you mean?
Because there's no way that European is getting to the mainland without
Help from the
help
Africans.
from same thing with over here.
So they're the one that sent that
When the Europeans came, they worked with the Europeans
so then
to sell other Africans to America.
Because remember,
So
we were already
but
over
they-
here. We're not
but they-
talking about us being brought over here. We're talking about Africans being brought over here,
okay.
not us, because we were already here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Part of the same brainwash that we think, oh well, our history across the Atlantic. No, our history's been here for 10,000 years. Some people say 50,000 years. Some people say 100,000 years. We've been on this side, right? So when we make the relation of Africans sold Africans, we're not talking about us that were sold. We're talking about the ones that are over there, that got played by their own people, got put on boats, and got brought over here. And those, how much ever percent that were brought over here,
It's just small
that's what they're using
to make it
it
merge
look like, oh, see, look, we brought all these people
Okay.
over here.
Yeah.
They didn't bring all these people over here, no.
and it wasn't even that much people too, because they made it seem like it was like what millions
Right,
and millions
million.
of people, but the real stats isn't nowhere near that. It's probably like around the hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
What I wanted to say was, I think you've said it before, Cujo. When I look back and think about this whole your history coming from Africa stuff, growing up, like my family's from Jamaica, and all my life I was born there. All my time living there and growing up, even coming here, I've never heard my family talk about anything to do with Africa, like in our history or any type of language, food, like clothing, like you know what I mean. Nothing ever to do with Africa. You know, so that made it like a question to my head, like where does this Africa stuff come from, other than seeing like the Rastafarian movement, but outside of that, there's nothing to do with Africa within my family and my history. So that created the question, and I always just knew in myself that something was off.
Islam is more peace.
Can I just share my experience
Please do.
to what he just said?
Love testimonials.
Many of us, when we were growing up in the Caribbean or even outside the Caribbean, in Caribbean family, the Christian faith discouraged us from having any connection to Africa. So anything to do with Africa would be considered witchcraft. Anything that's considered an African behavior would be considered negative. Having your hair like that would be negative, or you'll never get a job if you're walking around. So that in my situation too, you were not allowed to do anything with Africa. In fact, when I got connected to trying to understand my African connection, I was pretty much ostracized from my family.
Right.
So that's my little take on where yours might be coming from.
Right. It's real. It's definitely real. Brother Basir Bey. Salam Kujo and to the active Moors worldwide. I am Basir El Bey. I currently domicile in the territory of Charlotte, North Carolina. During the madness that occurred here after Keith Scott was murdered, there was a change of vibrations. Tensions were high and the uninformed populace, mainly unconscious Moors, were infuriated. Time and time again, these same events occur, and after they do, everyone goes back to sleep as if they didn't. I have been a witness to this since the murder of Michael Brown. At that time, I was an inactive Moor, but a conscious one, not being in my proper person. I say this because I was aware of Moor science because of a song titled Swagger Jackson's Return by J Electronica. I first heard this track in '09. I was 17. And I was 17 at the time. The first line of the track is as follows. It's the return of the black Moors with no fez. Scary like the documentary on Lisa Lopez. At the time, I had no clue what he was talking about. Years passed and I met a friend via internet through the medium of music. His stage name is Jalal Salam, Jalal Salam. You can look his music up as well. We would eventually meet up with each other, and from there we would record music, make beats, talk about the world in general. He has studied Tibetan Buddhism, philosophy, and has received teachings from the Dalai Lama while he was living in India. I know I'm going off topic, but everything ties in together. I'm writing from the Spirit. Spirit has no bounds. Eventually, he'll tell me about Jesus. Yahshua's travels in India. I always think back to how I can relate this to the Holy Quran. In a similar manner, Jalal and myself would always read different esoteric books together as well. By the way, research Nicholas Roerich, R-O-E-R-I-C-H. Nicholas Roerich, R-O-E-R-I-C-H. Jalal put me onto his art and biography. Continuing on, he eventually introduced me to the Holy Quran of the Moor Science Temple and told me to read it. I downloaded a PDF version and read it. I continued to research on my own via YouTube, just looking onto the world about Moors and Noble Juali in general. At the time, I thought Ali was a myth because there wasn't an accurate source giving info about his timeline. As time passed, I would keep searching. My go-to source about Moor science would be C. Freeman L. Eventually, I'll tell my parents I'm going to become a Moor as if I already wasn't one. I was young and still learning, which I still am. Anyways, my father had no clue I was researching anything I could get my hands on about Moor science. He gave me his Circle 7. This really blew my mind. He had no clue, and then all of a sudden gives me a Circle 7. Allah really does guide this. Anyhow, he isn't nationalized due to the fact of dealing with temple Moors back in the day and them not giving the people what this movement really entails. I still have and read this Circle 7 to this day. He received it during his travels, living in the territory of Brooklyn quite some time ago. Once I discovered R.V. Bay, I was overwhelmed. Growing up, my father would always have Buddha statues, Buddha paintings, healing crystals in our household. There was also books I inherited from him as well. Once I found out about R.V. Bay, I had my mom print out most of the historical documents from the site so I could read. At first, I didn't know what I was really dealing with, but seeing all the info about the First Peoples let me know I was on the right track.